This time on Pole Barn Garage, we are back with the 1969 Jeep Wagoneer. We got this running, driving, and doing 4x4 things in the last video on it. Now it's time to make it look better than it does currently. I'm going to show you how to make a vehicle a good solid 20-footer for about 250 bucks, and you can do it yourself in a weekend. And step one of this process is always going to be check it out and see what you have to work with. And what we've got is a lot of flaked checking paint. It's been painted several times. This blue is the original color, and then it looks like it has been painted green a couple of times on top of that. There's quite a bit of filler in the truck. We're not worried about that. That's fine. The dog legs are pretty solid. The lower quarters are bad for sure. Tailgate also has some rust underneath this trim. There's a lot of heavy pitting and surface rust on it. This lower quarter is also pretty bad. This dog leg is good. Rockers, practically non-existent. And the hood especially is pretty bad. I mean, this is all a skin coat of filler filling in a lake. It's rough. But here's the fun part. I don't care. And you shouldn't either. This thing is what, a $2,000 Jeep? And we're gonna make it like a $2,500 Jeep by the end of this video. But it'll look good. And no, it won't be perfect, but that is okay. And just to preface this, nothing I'm doing here is going to be the correct way to do it. If you want to see good body work on the channel, we have done some of it. Go check it out. But if you want to see something that you can do in your driveway with a buddy in a few days, this is the video for you. I'm going to be using a 6-inch DA with 80 grit sandpaper over the whole vehicle, get it knocked down and flat to the point where we can begin work. Now when you're doing a butch job like this, you need to focus your efforts where they're going to matter most. And that's the upper surfaces of the car. Anything that's eye level and your eye is going to go straight to, that's where you should put your time in, like the hood. The correct way to handle this would be to grind out all of this old filler and replace it. But we're not going to do that because that would take too much time. What we're going to do is flatten it all out as best as we can. We'll try to get the cracks out of it, and then we're going to cover it right up. I'm going to just feather out the edges. Anytime you're using a DA, you should be keeping it flat on the surface. But when you're trying to feather an edge and do a half-ass job like this, you want this. You want to use the angle of it to try to feather out that edge until it's smooth. Any hard edges, like these cracks or anything that's like a 90-degree edge to the surface, is going to come right back on you. You can also use an 8-inch DA. An 8-inch DA is a linear sander instead of an orbital like this. You can remove material a lot faster with one of these, but they are about 120 bucks and they're sensitive. You can tell I dropped this one and it's practically ruined now. I'm having to remove more of this mud than I meant to. They actually had too much in it. It was kind of a big lump. They've still got some cracks. You can see these, I can get my thumbnail in them. But this part here, this is feathered appropriately. It's flat. That's not bad. Now what we're gonna do, once I get done sanding this whole hood, is we're gonna fill this whole area here and then feather it out. Here's the thing, with a quickie Earl Shive job like this, we got one shot to get that right. We can't be spending a day trying to get the hood straight. So we've got one chance to get that filled and ready for primer in one go. It is possible. Production paint shops do it all the time. It ain't pretty always, but it'll be good enough. Here's a perfect example of feathering. So you see this spot here? This is not feathered good enough. I can feel it with my finger. It's got a ridge. Now this spot in the middle, that's fine. It can hang out. As long as it's a nice soft edge like that, you're good. But if it's a hard edge like that, or that, then that's no bueno. You're not going to bury that. See these big gouges and scrapes? Well, this one here is smooth. I've feathered it out. Even though I haven't broke the paint, I've managed to feather that out. This is okay. This is not. Again, it comes back to the edge thing. Let me show you a trick for getting like deep scratches like that feathered out nice and smooth. Every DA has a lock method, meaning this is orbital. It goes around in a big circle. You can also lock it into grind mode, and this one you just push this plate down and boom, now it's locked together. So it's only orbiting on one axis instead of the other axis. You can remove material a lot faster, but you're also going to burn through paper really quick. So, you know, use caution, but it works really good when you've got to really dig in there and you don't want to dig a big asshole. Alright, this half of the hood is done. It is taking some time. I had to go to some 40 grit on my 8-inch DA to really get it leveled out, but this is acceptable. So if you're going for a butch job, remember that butch job, this is acceptable. And if you're going for perfection, this is not acceptable. So you can see the difference. See all the flakiness and whatever, it's still here, but it's smooth. I run my hand across it. That is as far as we're gonna go. One other thing I do want to mention is this is a piece of trim here, but somebody's already sanded and painted it. It's supposed to be chrome, so I guess I'll just rough it up and paint it too. Otherwise I would remove that. And as we move along the car, I'll show you what to remove that's easy and things that you can remove but are a little more difficult. And that's what we're shooting for, is easy. Easy and fast. Alright, the hood is good. Now you see all this surface rust? What are we gonna do about it? Nothing, you're looking at it. This is what we're doing, alright? I'm gonna clean it up in the dents as best as I can, but it's pretty heavily pitted. Then we're gonna go ahead and get some mud going on the hood. That way it can set up while we work on other parts of the truck. This is the most important part right here. That's why we spent some time on it. Now the rest of it, whatever. See these? These are up dings. Like the hood got shut on something. Same back here. Not much of one there. I'm probably not worried about it, but this one's pretty good. Take a ping hammer like this. That actually popped right back in there. Just a little skin coat icing, and that's gone. Most valuable tool you have is your hands and your feel and a pencil. Mark the dents so you don't forget about them, especially if you care about what you're painting. These are the putty spreaders I use. They're just from Harbor Freight. They're cheap for a box of 20, and they work pretty good. I'd say you get about 4 uses out of one before you need to pitch it, if you care about what you're working on, which I don't. Which means I'll probably use 2 for the whole truck. This is the filler I use. I like the U-Pole Gold. I also like Evercoat Rage. The U-Pole's a little bit cheaper. I stay away from Bondo brand products as a rule. They're terrible. The good thing about the gold is that it is direct to metal, meaning it can be applied direct to bare metal. Not all fillers are like that, and that's where they get kind of a bad rap for popping off, right? This stuff's been sitting since we did the 64 Le Mans, and I got about half a gallon of it. It's coming back around. See, this stuff don't last forever once you open the can. Technically, I think this is probably bad, but it's totally good enough for this thing. I want to say it's like 45 bucks. It's, you know, it's a little bit expensive, but worth it. There is a ratio for this. It's like, I think they say like a nickel for every dollar bill sized spot of filler. I just eyeball it. It's cold right now, so if I put a little extra in there, it's just going to help me out. But I would say that is an appropriate amount of hardener. When you're mixing your filler, don't stir. Don't do this. If you stir it, it can make air pockets, which will turn into pinholes when you try to put it down. You want to fold your filler over like this. We got a pretty good sized dent right here. So I'm going to just fill it in like this. I'm going to apply pressure at the top, let off a little bit so it flows into the dent. I'm going to run it all the way down to this body line because that's a good stopping point. Now I'm going to go outside of the dent just a little bit. So I want something to feather in. When you sand filler, you're pretty much never going to just fill the dent. You're going to need to feather the outside edges of it. So you want to have enough there to do it. Now this one we're going to spread out quite a bit, because we're going to have to do quite a bit of feathering. And we don't need it to be perfect, we just need it to be better. Always work your filler in the same direction. Don't work it this way and then turn around. work it in the same direction. It'll be nice and smooth like that. And if you turn it around, it'll end up again making pinholes. But it's not always going to happen like that. There are no absolutes when it comes to bodywork. Like, I'll just do it right here. I'm going to work at 90 degrees to it. You can do this. That's gonna have to be good enough. I may put another coat in this just because it's so screwed up. The rest of this will be totally fine. This is gonna take a little while to cure with it being cold outside. And here's where we could talk about removing things. See, like this mirror here? It's 2 Phillips screws. Probably pretty easy to get off unless they strip, and then I'll leave it on. But like the door handles, the locks, the emblems, you know what's gonna happen if I touch that stuff? It's gonna break. And if it breaks, I have to fix it. So I'll just leave it alone. See, that is an option. If you can mask, you don't have to pull this stuff off. Doesn't look like the tail light bezels come off very easy. They've got to be done inside, so if I start touching those pop metal housings, it's going to break every nut off of it. No thank you, I'll leave it alone. Y'all get ready for a lot of this.
For love is blind and you're far too kind. Don't ever let it show. I wish that I knew what I know now. When I was younger, I wish that I knew what I know.
I want to show you guys something, especially the OCD perfectionists out there. Everybody goes, Bondo bad, everything got to be welded metal. Yeah. No, it doesn't. Look at that. That is solid body filler and fiberglass. And it's clearly filling probably a rust hole behind that, if I had to guess, considering the whole fender is body filler. But what do you notice? If we use even a little bit of critical thinking, there's no bubbling, there's no cracking. It was applied properly with short strand fiberglass under it and then a coat of filler. This vehicle's been off the road since the early 1980s. That means this has lasted longer than the original steel fender did. It's not rocket science, people. There's nothing wrong with using fiberglass and filler when used properly. This part here looks like the bumper got smacked up against it and broke all the filler out of it here, so not the best, but you can see how mashed up it was. Somebody worked with what they had here, and they did a pretty good job. I'm giving props. We do have a few pretty minor cracks in here that I will address the wrong way, just like I'm about to address that the wrong way. Watch and learn. See that? There you go. Just gob it full. Will it work? Yeah, it'll work for a while. Anybody who looks at this and says, oh, that'll fall out in a week, they're an idiot. It will come back, but you'll get some use out of it in the meantime.
When I was stronger, the can such a pretty show to steal your heart away. The backstage back on earth again. The dressing rooms are great.
Here's a tip for you. I'm stripping that door, right? Well, my sandpaper's wore out too much to really cut through the paint on it, but there's enough paper left to knock down some filler, which we're ready to do up here. So make good use of your materials, you know, get every ounce you can out of them if you're trying to pinch pennies. Now when you're sanding filler, stay flat on it. And if it's your first time or you're inexperienced, make sure you're feeling it all the time. Like right now I can feel a lump, right? So I'm gonna stay flat on it, but I'm not gonna go until I see the dent. I wanna leave a feathered edge. See that nice soft edge? This is feathered. It's still just a hair high, but I'm gonna be very careful as I sand further. There. That is perfect. That would bury very easily under prime and block, which we're not going to do. I bet I could knock down all of this mud on the side of the fender with the same piece of sandpaper. Rough as hell, but good enough for this thing. They have a big flat area. Sometimes your best friend is the air board. These are pretty cheap. You can pick them up wherever. This is the fancy one from Harbor Freight, but I don't really know if it's any better than the cheap one. Well, I blew it. It's got a pretty good low spot in it. Too much for me to leave. I'm gonna go ahead and give one more skin coat on it. I mean, it's, see that? That's thin. There's not very much filler in that. Probably, just one more 1/16 inch skin coat gets that, and at least, that's right in the driver's periphery, right? So you want the driver to be like, yeah, I'm driving something nice, even if the rest of it is completely falling apart. Now it's going to be back to stripping off all this old flaky paint. There's no straightforward process to this kind of thing. You just kind of bounce around wherever you're needed. The bottom edge of this door is completely roached. Actually, no longer part of the door. That's okay. So I want to demonstrate something to you. Well, currently, you're about 5 feet away and you're looking down at it. What do you see? Not a whole lot, right? Perfect. All right, it's done. Let's move on. Well, I got the whole side of this thing stripped down. I'm going to show you a few horrible things I'll be doing. Like this. There's a crack in the mud here, and rather than grind it out and replace the filler like you should do, I'm just going to fill it with spot putty. And then it'll be fine. Got to work it into that crack and scrape off our excess here. Oh, that's beautiful. See this rust hole here? So, the right thing to do here would be to cut it out and make a patch. It'd be pretty easy because it's flat. That would take time and caring. I have neither. So we're just going to gob it full of filler. There's another half-ass way you could do it if you wanted it to last. Cut out the rust and short strand fiberglass that, and it would hold up for quite a while as well. This will not hold up for very long. I still bet you get a year or two out of it. And we're going to put a big glob on the edge. That way we have a way to make a new edge. I'm going to run my spreader in this gap here. I got a little messy. I got on the dog leg and I don't need to be over there. That's butcher work at its finest, ladies and gentlemen. Not as bad as what I'm about to do a little further down the vehicle though. This lower quarter is ugly as sin. So what are we going to do about it? Well, I'm tempted to do nothing at all because it's far down on the car. But we can't do that. We got to at least cover this up and put a little lipstick on this pig. So we're going to take some scrap metal here. Basically, we're just going to draw an outline of kind of sort of where the rust is. And then we're just going to glue it right over it and blend it in with filler, and it'll be good to go. Take this lip off here, cut right here, and up. Out comes the nibbler. There we go. See, now we're talking. It's nearly perfect. It's just missing one thing. You see, all we need here is some liquid nails and then some self-tapping screws, and you'll just have a brand new quarter panel. Well, part of one. We still have to make the rest of it. Blob construction adhesive on the back of this so that it has something to kind of seal it up. This is a precision operation. Yeah, just mash that down on there. Yeah, like that. You gotta push kind of hard as it's cold out here right now. Get your self-tapping screws out. We're going to use stainless because we don't want it to rust. This piece of metal I'm sticking over this is like not even a 1/16 of an inch thick. So burying it in some mud will be no problem. And while we let that set up, we can go to work down here and try to make a lower quarter. I don't know if I got enough Kia left here to do that. We may have to go find some more metal. I would take the roof off of this. Those are harder to get off the car than you would think. The deck lid's pretty easy though. So this is how you want to do it. You want to just get the skin with the jack sticker. That way, we can reuse that. Before this thing goes to the junkyard, you guys know me. I will be taking every flat piece of sheet metal it has. Yep. See, tape measures are for suckers. We're just gonna shove this piece of metal in here and then eyeball how large it needs to be. Look at that. Oh my God. I'm a magician. What can I say? So I'm kind of working it here. I've got a lip starting to be made here. Very crude, very rough. I don't want to put a lot of time into this. It wasn't abundantly obvious. Oh, too much. You don't want to kink it, That's looking better. It's looking better. It's still too far down here in the front. Behold, perfection. Well, no, not even close. But good enough. So I'm just going to take my liquid nails here and just goop it all over this quarter. Yep. very gently shove this up here. Allow me to get the Lord's fastener out, the self-tapper. You might have noticed I missed a spot here. There's a gap. Well, let me just go ahead and weld that up. There we go. See? I'm kind of a master welder. I don't know if you guys knew this. So good. I mean, it looks like I just taped right over it, you know? Well, you didn't think we were done, did you? I'm not a hack. We're not going to pull the screws out. We're going to grind the heads of them off. That way they're flush, and they'll kind of help hold everything together. Looks pretty good, actually. It's not bad. In fact, it's so good, I'm just going to put a little bit of mud on it to cover up the seam, and then call it good forever. And in regards to the giant hole that I missed, I'm going to pack it full of mud. Now that we've taken the screw heads off, we can bury it in filler. And if you don't take the screw heads off, you run a pretty good risk of they'll come back through the filler. You grind them off flush, they're fine. If you really wanted to do this right, you would just kind of spread this out about halfway down the quarter and just have a really thin film of filler to blend into it. See, that's perfection. Not really. I gotta get this big lake knocked out. Should be good. Then we're gonna start stripping the other side of the truck, which is in better shape. It ain't bad. I mean, thing is it's what's happened is it's oil canned, so I mean, without putting the right amount of work into it, it's just never gonna be good. But this is good enough. It's better than a big ass dent. Speaking of big ass dents, we gotta do something about this. That's unacceptable. It's at eye level, so we have to fix this. Something's fell on it. It's pushed out down here, so we'll hit it down here to try to push the metal back up into the dent, and then we're just gonna cave and pave, baby. So this dent is too deep even for half-ass work to fill it with body filler. We're going to have to use some short strand fiberglass to build this out, and then we'll just pave right on over it. This is short strand fiberglass. It's the same thing as body filler, except for there's bigger chunks of fiberglass in it, so it's strong. And you could reinforce a big dent, or even a rust hole with it. You should use this on any patch repairs, anything. I've got just a little bit left over here, not a whole lot, and it mixes up just like body filler. And just glob it in here. And after we grind this down, then we'll put a little bit of filler on top of it. I'm waiting for that fiberglass to set up so we can fix that dent. And I'm getting into some of the filler in this side here. I'm just kind of picking my way across. And there's a lot. And you can see here, see how this filler is still flexible? What happened was it wasn't mixed properly. And even now, you know, half a century later, it's not fully hardened. It never adhered to the metal. This part's fine. This part's not. And it just wasn't mixed thoroughly. Unfortunately, I don't think there's anything I can do about this short of just take it out and put it back. Give you an example. See that? See, you should be able to flex it like that. And it's when people do stuff like this is what gives filler a bad reputation. That's workable now. It'll save me a little bit of work feathering it out like this. But look, the whole door is detached. There's not a lot left here. I'm gonna hit this door and this fender with 80 just to get the area around that prepped, and then we should be able to fix that.
As the midnight moon was drifting through the lazy sway of the tree, I saw the look in your eyes.
Let me knock down this fiberglass here, and then we'll start slinging some mud. Something like that. You just use the grinder to get you a rough shape, and then we'll use filler to make the rest of it. Time to summon my inner sculptor. That's probably enough for me to sculpt into a shape of some kind. See that? Looks great, right? Alright. We gotta use this mud up before it hardens. Got a couple of pinholes on the side of the hood here I was gonna grab. And I just dinged them in with a hammer. And I'm just gonna gob the pinhole. Come on with me. Come over here. Alright, now we gotta get that stuff I showed you earlier. And when you're mudding against a door gap or anything like that, don't be afraid to just mud right into the gap. You can just cut it back out after it dries. Jumping back to our quarter panel repair here, what I'm about to do is sculpt with a DA. This is a inverted little lip here on this body line. That's where I packed all that mud at. So basically I'm just going to use the edge of my DA. And remember, if you can't make it look the way it's supposed to, just make it look the way it could look. Even if this body line was supposed to continue all the way down, well, now it just kind of, you know, tapers off into it, like a lot of cars do. Nobody's gonna know. Fixed. Door's knocked down, and there is some cracks in the mud here. I just spot puttied them. We gotta get moving and get this thing knocked out. I think to save myself a minute here, we're just gonna do this quarter the exceptionally wrong way. I've simply been doing things the wrong way, not the really wrong way. To mix up my glass here. See, we're gonna take our short strand here and then just freaking gob it into the rust holes. You see that there? Boom. I mean, if I wanted to do it like super duper wrong, I would use filler for this, but look at that. Oh, that is atrocious. If you don't know how to do it wrong, you can't do it right, or whatever. Hold the truck forward here so I get a better look at this tailgate. I kind of wish I hadn't. It's a freaking disaster. I mean, it's got rust holes up here. And it's bad, is what it is. I'm going to do the same thing I've been doing, grind out these filler cracks and chips and stuff, just spot putty it up, call it a day. Whole thing is a coat of filler, and it's not thin, it's deep. Let me quickly sculpt this dent into shape. Actually, turned out reasonably good. Huh. I mean, it's low here, which I could fill if I cared. I don't. Quite a bit better than the giant dent. The dilemma here is that there's too much going on here for me to try to use spot putty on everything. And the other side of that coin is that there's too much going on here for me to use body filler. Because if I'm going to use body filler, I can't just wipe it on in spots and then try to sand those spots. I'm going to end up digging all around it. I need something that'll sand faster than the material underneath it, which is where icing comes in. This is a leftover bit I have from that 64 we did, and this is not the correct use for icing at all. Okay, so, you know, put away your pitchforks. It fills in minor chips and imperfections and stuff, and it sands very easy. It's like sanding spot putty, but it's a little stronger. Think of it just like really super fine body filler is all it is. I don't have to go coating the entire thing because it sands so easy. I can use it in individual spots a little bit better than body filler. I got the heat running, trying to get that icing here quick. I'm going to go ahead and just hit the roof with 80. I'm not going to strip it. I don't really care. You can't see it. Whatever. Our butch work here is ready for attention. Paved. That looks pretty good. Knock that down once it cures. I'm going to knock down the mud we put here, this spot putty, tailgate, then that. Then we should be ready for prime. It's not actually ready for prime, it's ready for prime for our standards today, which are very, very low.
You want a man with a soul hand. You want a lover with an easy touch. You want somebody who will spend some time, not come and go in a...
Behold, it's ready for paint. Not really. Let's just pretend today is opposite day, and everything I say is a lie. It's horrible. This isn't bad. You know, this is good butcher work. Let's blow this thing off, get it taped off, try to get some primer on it tonight. Spoiler alert, I'm painting it with tractor paint. And I bought tractor primer, and I'm kind of scared of it, so I'm not going to use it as primer. The paint is fine, but I'm worried that it's too cold and that primer may never dry. I actually have 2 half gallons of leftover 2K urethane primer. I'm going to cheat a little bit and use that. That's really going to fill in a lot of those cracks and stuff. It does a good job of that. I would do the tractor thing, but I don't know. What if it doesn't dry? Then I'm sitting around staring at it for like 3 days waiting? Nah, I can't do that. I'm going to tape it off. It's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, you know, you tape it off. You can use newspaper or butcher paper, works really good. I have actual masking paper. I mean, it holds up a little better since we probably won't remask for paint. That'll be nice. Would like to mention that I use RV tire covers to cover my tires. They work great. You can get a few jobs out of them too. You get these at Harbor Freight for like 15 bucks. This tape I got on Amazon. It's Refinish brand. It's pretty good. You get a whole sleeve of it cheap. I don't remember how much, but it's a lot cheaper than 3M. So if you're really good at masking, you can do this in one shot. Me, I have to like border a window with tape and then fill it in with paper. But if you're really good, like my dad could do this in one shot, use half the tape. Get the heater running out there. Wagoneer's all taped up. Trying to get some life back into this primer. It's very cold, but I think it'll work. I've got roughly a gallon total. We won't need that much. But this is a 2K urethane primer. It uses a catalyst. That's how I know it'll actually dry. This will chemically cure regardless of temperature. It might take a little while, but it will cure. That out there, solvent cures. It cures as the solvent evaporates out of it, and if it's too cold, a solvent won't evaporate out of it. I mean, it might a month from now. This gallon of primer with catalyst is about 120 or 130 bucks. So I am cheating because a gallon of this primer is more than I've invested in any of the other materials in the whole Wagoneer. So this mix is 4 parts primer, 1 part catalyst. We're just going to dump it in here. I'm going to reduce it a lot. This stuff goes bad. I mean, it's sitting around for the last couple of months. At least I'll burn it up on something that doesn't matter. I mean, something I really love. This is reducer. I'm going to help myself out on the next cup. Right in the gallon. Hey, look. There we go. That's better. My hand's going to cramp by the time I get done stirring this. Now we're going to shoot this out of a El Cheapo Harbor Freight spray gun. They're great primer guns. I'm going to do the roof first in case I put the hose up against the side of it. I got a chance to fix it before I ruin the primer. Hey, that spray's good. I'm spraying at 50 PSI. I'm going to open my fan up.
In front of the TV. Cross town, somebody's up and walking the floor. And I swore to the tree.
You want to overlap about 40%. The one line, I'm going to overlap right on top of what I just sprayed. Then we're going to ignore all the cratering and fish-eyeing it's doing, because that's totally fine. So the roof has got a coat on it, and that's all it's getting. Next step is to put 1 coat on all of my bodywork, so all the filler and the whole Jeep, which is pretty much the whole Jeep. You want to cover that up. Try to get at least 2 coats on it. That way it doesn't shrink up and show through your paint. Oh, chunky. I really shouldn't use this. All those little checks. That's going to be a problem. I could butch it. When you start to overall prime or overall paint, 1 panel at a time. You know, we'll do this quarter and then run it about 4 inches into the next panel. Same thing, this door to that fender. It just helps keep with primer it doesn't matter, but it's good practice to just, you know, do every time. That way you don't have a hard blend line whenever you paint. Debating on whether or not I really want to use what I'm scraping up off the bottom of this can. Then I remembered that I'm a cheap ass, so yes, I do.
Well, you can tell that all of our body work looks pretty good, so if you just pretend that we did everything, it don't look bad. When you're spraying, you need to keep the gun perpendicular. Surface here, gun here. Got to remain perpendicular.
On to can number 2. This one's a little better. It's not as bad. I don't know, I even had them out there sitting next to the heater for about an hour. That didn't seem to help. Somebody's OCD is going off like crazy, and it's making me giggle. The reducer is too cold. They're not wanting to mix.
Now that's shooting like it's supposed to, so I'm going to reset my volume control to let more liquid out of the gun.
Somebody's wanting somebody.
Anybody who's new to the channel watching this is going to be like, who does this guy think he is, giving tips and tricks? Look at that piece of shit. It is covered in a coat of primer. What I'm going to do now is I got a little bit left, and we're not block sanding, but I do want to go back and hit some trouble areas just to help seal in the filler. And also, if we go back to, we find some of those bad cracks. I think they're all on that side because I got lazy on the driver's side. I believe we actually got lucky. You notice how the cracks, now there are some here, but this all was cracks too. And the urethane would appear to be melting the lacquer underneath it, reactivating it, and filling the cracks. Is that a long-term solution? No. But will it work for a while? Sure. If I could get a few extra coats on these, I might be able to 180 sand that flush, and they won't come back until it's safely in someone else's possession.
See all these? That's all filler. That's shrinking up around it. Because the filler is warmer than this going on it, I think. But we could bury it. I'm just going around hitting trouble spots.
Even if you don't know what you're doing, you should try just bullshitting something like this, because it'll teach you a lot. And you can take that forward and apply it to something that's meaningful and worthwhile, and not this Jeep Wagoneer.
I'm trying to fill these scratches. You can see them left in there.
If I get a couple extra coats of primer on them, there's a good chance I can block it out of there and it won't be in the paint. One thing you need to keep on hand if you plan on painting anything is lacquer thinner. You can get this at your local parts store generally. Pretty cheap. It's like 95 bucks for 5 gallons of this stuff. It'll last you a year or more. I just use it for cleaning, pretty much. I use it to clean the guns. I spray the guns out. And it keeps them alive for at least a few uses. And this is the time to sell it. Ready for paint! Well, I'm out here this morning, and I was starting to sand on this thing, and once again, using old leftover primer in the freezing cold has bit me in the ass. You would think I would learn, but nope, I'm not that smart. See how it's not really coming off like it should. I mean, it's mostly cured, but it's clogging my paper. So the smart thing to do here would be to wait about a day, and it would probably cure off. But we don't have a day. See, the thing is, the cops are on the lookout for a really raggedy old Wagoneer that was involved in a few robberies, and we can't have a raggedy old Wagoneer around. We need a nice painted one that's clearly not the same vehicle. Actually, the inevitable Jim and I have to go fetch a couple cars down south in the next 2 days, so I need to get this done before then, So that means it pretty much has to be painted tonight. There's only 2 spots I'm gonna really concern myself with as far as like trying to fix them more gooder, and that's just where those cracks showed up here. Unfortunately, with the primer acting like it is, I'm not gonna be able to block it out, but what I'll be able to do is spot putty it. So let me show you how to fix bullshit mistakes like that, and then we'll make a lot more bullshit mistakes. The moral of the story being, don't do this. You can see here, that's where all those cracks are. I don't want them to show back through the paint, so I'm just going to sand this area. Then I'm going to take this cheap, crappy spot putty and just shove it into the cracks, and it'll be good. I don't call it glazing putty for no reason. With this stuff, don't put it on too thick. Otherwise, it'll take forever to dry. You're going to work it in one way, and then in the other way, and just try to force it into those cracks. Just hit this whole thing with 180 grit on my 6-inch DA here, and hand sand what I can't DA. Just stay flat on it. 180 is too coarse for most paint jobs, but with the tractor paint, I don't really think it's going to matter. You would normally want to use 320, something a little smoother, but I don't know if 320 will work with this primer as being as crappy as it is. Okay, that's sanding okay. We'll DA it all with 180, and then we'll just take a red Scotch-Brite and rub over the whole truck when we're done. Once the primer is broke open with 180, Scotch-Brite's nice and easy. So I don't think we're going to have any adhesion problems. I just can't do block sanding, and that's fine. Spot putty back here is dry. I coated just overall where the cracks were, so I'm just going to DA this. All the red in here, it's filled in all those cracks. It ain't going to last forever, but you know, you're good to get a year or 2 out of it. You know, about as long as this paint job will last. This kind of spot putty is acrylic. You can paint over it in small amounts, like the little chips. You can paint over that. This much, you really probably shouldn't, but you can generally paint over it. Normally I spend a couple hours cleaning the shop and making sure that everything is, you know, dust free and give us our best shot at painting something without dirt in it. But I don't care, so it's done. But I will do one thing, and even on a half-ass job like this, I'm going to do this, and that's wipe it down with degreaser. This is a Van Sickle brand. It's the same brand as the tractor paint we shoot. You wipe it on wet, just get a couple old t-shirts or something, and just wipe it on, and then wipe it off with a dry one. And that's going to really help prevent fish eyes and stuff like that. And you too can pick up shop rags on polebarnmerch.com. When I ruin t-shirts, they turn into shop rags. And you know, you could do the same. They're priced reasonably. We got gloss medium green. It's Oliver green for a tractor. I haven't painted anything green, I don't think. That's why it's green. Otherwise I would have done blue, but I paint everything blue, so I just wanted to break the mold a little. Now you can get a gallon of this stuff for $51 at your local farm and home. It's gone up a little bit. It used to be $46, but you know, inflation and all. So tractor paint is an alkylate enamel. It's oil based, so when you reduce it, you can use mineral spirits. I use naphtha. I think it dries a little bit quicker. Naphtha is just boiled gasoline. The key to making tractor paint last and look good is this. It's the catalyst. I'm pretty sure it's just acrylic enamel hardener. Every time I've tried to use acrylic enamel hardener in tractor paint, it has turned to goo. So I just buy their brand and it works really good. It's $30 for this. It's almost as much as the whole gallon of paint, but that pint will harden this entire gallon. $51, 30 bucks, just over 100 bucks in paint. I'll use my primer gun if I have to, but I have this mystery brand one from Amazon. This was destined to be a primer gun at some point. I won't shoot the tractor paint through my good paint guns because it's oil based and it could cause fish eyes down the road and things I do care about. So I just use cheapy throwaway guns for this stuff. I mix the paint 8-to-1 with hardener. Oh, it's so thick. to the next line. It's still very thick. That's not spraying out of a gun. So that's where you got to reduce it. I reduce like, I don't know, 10 to 20%-ish. That's about 1 full part reducer. Next time we'll do about half a part. It is, I don't know, 30 degrees right now. It's warmer than it has been. But it's way too cold to be doing this. My God, that is very green. Once again, I'm starting with the roof because I don't care about it because you can't see it from the ground. Unless you're taller than me. So I got to sell it to someone shorter than me. Oh, that feels good. Now this is a solid color, so I could get away with stopping in the middle of this panel and continuing it down there. If it's a metallic or has any kind of flake, you can't do that. A first coat should be a real light coat, so like that I can see through it, that's fine. And we'll let it flash, which means I'll probably kick the heater on after I get the thing in 1 coat of paint. And we're gonna let that first coat kind of tack and flash, and then we'll have something we can hang the next coat on where we'll fill in the green.
Every day, running the road, just playing. Playing in the backyard, not caring about.
My first coat here, I'm overlapping a lot less just because I'm trying to make the paint go as far as I can to get that first coat on. But otherwise you do have to overlap because you can see my light spots in between each pass. You know, you don't want it to look like that, so you got to blend everything together. Also, look at all the fish eyes. Isn't that nice? I wonder if I could use fisheye eliminator in this. I might try it. I've never used fisheye eliminator in tractor paint, but I think we're going to need it. And it's nothing to do with our surface prep. I think it's because I've been blasting a diesel heater at the truck for the last day or two. That makes some oily residue. Just a little bit. About half a capful.
Well, let's see if this helps.
Singing, play my way. If you're offended, I will say, don't give a damn, this is a day.
Green as shit.
These party towns.
That's a big sag. It's very cold out here. Don't paint when it's this cold. Wait a month.
When that happens, it's just run it off of the panel if you can. So if I get that run on that hood to just run off and hopefully roll under it, it'll be fine.
Country outlaw way.
Another big run up here. Run all the way down. Well, we got a bunch of runs in it, pretty much everywhere. But I got one secret up my sleeve. Total indifference. Guess they just kind of varied. All right.
At least you don't really have to worry about bugs in the winter.
No bugs. You know, the paint just runs off the side of it.
Water's hanging on the brim. Water to see, no way. Got my boots and the tall hat, snowing west, there's
Yeah, the tailgate, same thing. It's actually those cracks. It's not sticking to it. The paint's just running off of it. Still is going to accomplish our goal of like 30 footer, 100 footer, 300 footer. If you took that vehicle looking like that to some off-road trails and wheeled the shit out of it, you're gonna make people mad because they're gonna think it's actually a nice Jeep, but it's not. That's the secret. I could probably get that to run all the way off. I don't know if this is obvious. Don't do this. Ta-da! It's better.
It is.
This is the beauty of it. Totally stress-free. There you have it. One very green Jeep. With its share of sags and runs and stuff. What really bit me was that first cord I had that was over-reduced. As you can see there, it's literally running off the panel. I did get the run out of the door that way. However, it moved down to the dog leg. Now, it's been a few hours and it's still green. It looks pretty good. It's got a nice shine to it. It even dried for the most part. It'll take a day for this to cure all the way. Now for the most satisfying part of all of this, unmasking. It's my favorite thing to do. Yeah. Ah, yeah. Reveal all that pitted, nasty chrome. Oh, it's so satisfying. Not quite dry. Parts of it are dry. Well, I got Jess out here. Remember the giant screw up on the tailgate? It's still screwed up. So we're just going to cover it up with
Yeah.
whatever you come up with.
Okay, go.
We figured it looks kind of like a forestry truck, so,
Yeah.
you know, why not? I am also brush painting. I'm doing the wheels, and let me prep them for paint. Okay. We're done. So let's go ahead and paint them. And I have some tractor paint left over from some other stuff. I'm almost as artistic. See, I get a big glob on here and then just go to town. Just like that, boom.
That's pretty much what I'm doing.
I don't know what it is about tractor paint, but you can just slam it on over top of stuff and it's fine.
Everyone seems a damn genius lately. TikTok talking, late night TV is still.
Alright, I gotta put another coat on the wheels. A little thin on the paint, but you get the idea. It's gonna look nice. Hiding and distracting is almost as good as doing a good job in the first place. I think we'll go ahead and put that same bird on the door, and that'll kind of tie it together and make it not seem ridiculous. It does look like an old forestry truck. Why not just lean into it?
Hold and talk to my grandpa again. And I see God in everything, trees and pain and nights in the spring. So why do I still long for a home? I like to lay in a field on a cozy blanket and feel the fear of never waking, to know the true warmth of the sun. I like to love.
This looks pretty cool.
I'm gonna even all this out and do a second coat on everybody, and yeah.
I'm gonna reupholster it real quick. Don't let me opening the door screw up. It's gonna be pretty intensive. Okay. And it's done. When we go to the desert, we stock up on these for good reason. There we go. All done. I'm gonna shut the door.
Yep.
I'm gonna shut this door.
Yep.
I'm gonna go shut the other door. Shutting door.
Shutting door. Door shut. Some brushes don't hold up to acetone. That's the thing we learned. So. Oh. Whoa.
My exes hate me and my friends all miss me. I wanna drown in rot gut whiskey. Leave this small town for a while. Heading to Paris on a late night flight.
It kind of screams like Escape from New York patrol vehicle to me more than National Forestry Service, but that's okay.
I was feeling Wonder Woman Chicken Hawk.
Very cool.
I'm happy with it. That was fun.
Pro tip, get a woman that can do something you can't. Makes life way easier. Well, pull it out in the daylight tomorrow, see what she looks like, and literally a weekend did this. You can do it too. There you have it. You know, outside, most of the sins are hidden, and that's good. I mean, who would want to drive this? Come on. I'd drive the hell out of it. It's nice enough to not be embarrassing to putt around in, but not too nice that if I could go rip it through these trees right here and do some forestry work or deforestry work. What a good little thing. And we accomplished this in less than 2 days. Turned this from that wretched, rough barking at me pile to this still pretty rough, but it's not much of a bark. It's more like a whimper now. It's not a total pile. It's just kind of a pile. It's a shiny pile. And Jess's paint work there, that just serves to distract you from the issues we have, but that's fine. That is totally fine. If it makes the vehicle look cooler, good enough. Your eyes go to the white wheels and the white on the door and the chrome, and you know, you don't really focus on the body. And what's maybe more important is we've preserved it. So this coat of paint and the primer is gonna preserve the body of this thing, whatever's left of it, for a long time, and basically keep it from being parted out or shoved in a junkyard or something. Somebody can drive this, enjoy it, and fix it better down the road. That somebody's not me. If you can't tell, I kind of have a lot of automobiles. I don't need this one. So I put it up for sale to members in the Low Buck Club, which you can join for 99 cents a month. They get first dibs on anything I sell. This was one of them. So I sold it for $2,000 to a family in Iowa. They're going to come pick it up in a few days here. And it's going to go to a good home where it's going to be loved and cherished, which is what it deserves. And I think for $2,000, they got a pretty good deal. It's a good runner. There's plenty of room for improvement, but it's a good start. I guess we'll see you guys next time on Pole Barn Garage. I got to jump in the truck and head south with the inevitable Jim for a couple of project cars. We're either going to snag them and bring them home or try to drive them home. I'm not sure. You'll see that on Pole Barn Garage. Make sure you go to polebarnmerch.com, get you a hat, a shirt, shop rags, you know, whatever. I'm going to go park this thing, edit this video, and then jump on the road.